Hello everyone, Trophy Wine Hunter. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm really pleased to bring you a more value type Burgundy. It is the 2019 Domaine Faiveley Mercurey, and it's from the Monopole of La Framboisiere. Viewers will know that I recently drank a DRC St-Georges 2015, and people are thinking that's all great for you, Trophy, but how about some affordable Burgundy? So let me start by, and I'm glad to be able to do this video today with this wine because I'm really excited about this and talking about Faiveley and their Monopole. So let's get this kind of in context. When we talk about value Burgundy, unfortunately, there is, that's kind of a misnomer because if you compare this to other wines in the world, it is expensive for what it is. But if you're talking about Burgundy, because Burgundy, the grape type, first of all, is fickle. It's very difficult to grow very good Pinot Noir. A lot of factors can affect the growth of it. And also Burgundy, just by way of the system, it's difficult to accumulate a lot of land. And so there's not a lot of bottles of each Burgundy wine, and therefore that drives the demand or the pricing because there's so little supply. And that also goes back to how the inheritance laws go in France, go back to the Napoleon times, where by French law, and I'm not an expert in French law, it is passed down through the generations through inheritance to all the heirs. And so once you go more and more towards history, then the plots of land get smaller and smaller because it gets divided among, let's say, if the person has 5 sons, then a big piece of land gets divided to everyone gets 1/5. Then their sons, let's say they have 3 children, then that gets divided again. So after 2 generations, everyone has 1/15 of the original plot, and that's why the plots are so small. And each person that wants to grow grapes or make wines, they have very little vines to work with. I'm really excited to talk about Domaine Faiveley, and I think as prices go up, I think you're going to see wines from these négociants like Faiveley, like Jadot, like Champy go up in value, and people are going to appreciate them more and more. I can recall when I first was starting out in wines, and we had Jadot and mostly in here, but we had some Faiveley, and we always thought, well, they're kind of inexpensive wines. They're kind of entry-level Burgundy. They're not as good as these Grand Cru things and stuff like that. But that's all changed. One, because prices have gone up. Most people know that Burgundy wines are now astronomically priced, and we need some value. We can't drink DRCs every day, so we need some value. And so these wines, because they have present value, because they're from négociants, they probably have a little bit more wine selection and more grapes than other Burgundy producers, and therefore their pricing is a little bit better. But because of that, because there's such a discrepancy between the top end wines and these kind of what we would normally call value wines, these wines have risen in price quite a lot also. So again, Burgundy is not really a value drinking region. I know people want to find value, but I'm just going to be honest. There's certain regions in the world that just don't really afford themselves to value drinkers. You do have to spend the money, unfortunately. When you're in Burgundy, price does matter. And so, and if there is a wine out there that's really well priced, you can almost bet that after a couple of years, it's going to go up in price. And that's what I think is going to happen with wines like Faiveley, like Jadot wines, like Vougeot wines. They already have went up, but I think they're going to go up more and more because the divide or the discrepancy between these wines and the top end wines are so much, like thousands of dollars. And so, that gap has to lessen because there's going to be so much demand for these wines, which are relatively reasonably priced. Let's get to this producer and just all the good things about this wine I really like. And again, this is priced at BC liquor stores at $87.99. The current vintage is 2021. I know people will be shocked by that price, that people will say, well, why don't I just buy an Australian wine or a Napa wine or a Italian wine for the same price. I get so much better. Yes, that's true, but this is Burgundy. And if you want to drink Burgundy, that's kind of the level that you're drinking at. I really, again, people are going to say this is uppity of me or controversial. I've said this again with also Bordeaux. You can drink value Burgundy, but I don't think you learn a lot about Burgundy, quite frankly, without drinking at the little bit more affordable end. And actually, this is a great entry level for Burgundy in terms of understanding Burgundy. If you're just looking for a good wine, that's a different story. But if you want to learn something about Burgundy, I think you do need to spend a little bit of money. And just because you don't like a value Burgundy, a basic Bourgogne wine, you shouldn't poo-pah all the people that actually drink DRC or whatever like that. I don't understand why they drink it. It's a totally different level of Pinot Noir and wine. So Domaine Faiveley, this is a well-known producer. So they are mostly a wine producer, and they started off in 1825 by Pierre Faiveley, but they also run a négociant business. So both. They have a huge holdings right now, and that's one of the things I like about kind of producers like Jadot, like Champy, like Faiveley, that they have lots of product over a course of things. And so part of it is, when you get to know a winery and their philosophy, you like their wines and you search out for different wines. But a lot of wineries have so little vines in Burgundy that there's only maybe 3 or 4 wines to produce. So after you drink those 3 or 4, then there's not much else. That's not the case with Faiveley. Faiveley has like 60 or 70 different wines at different levels, at Village, at Grand Cru level. So they got so much variety, and I like that about them. So they started off in Nuits-Saint-Georges, and the first winery they bought was a Monopole, which is called Corton Clos de Corton. And what a Monopole is a single owner vineyard. So this, again, is a Monopole, and we'll get to that. Then they added to their holdings in Nuits-Saint-Georges. They had another great site in Nuits-Saint-Georges, and it's St-Georges, which is the premier cruise site. And then they added Clos Vougeot. So they also, between 1976 and 2004, extended more holdings to Cote de Nuits, Montagny, and also in Mercurey. So Mercurey is where this wine comes from. It's from the Côte Chalonnaise region. Please refer to my other videos on the Côte Chalonnaise region. It's one of the more affordable regions in Burgundy, and I really recommend that people do start with those wines if you're just starting to learn about Burgundy, and then build up. There are some great, what I would call, values in those regions, a little bit more inexpensive. You don't have to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a wine. And when you're just trying things out in Burgundy, it's nice to try and get a little bit of value there. Having said that, I don't recommend people going down to like $20 or $30. And this is Canadian price. I know US is different price, so maybe half it in US dollars. But at least in BC, if it's under $50 wines, I generally don't recommend you try those wines in Burgundy, because again, they're gonna be pretty basic wines. I mean, they're good to drink, but you're not really gonna learn anything about the Burgundy region from those wines. Today, Domaine Faiveley is ran by Erwan Faiveley, who took over in 2005, and his sister Eve, who in 2014. And now Faiveley actually owns 125 hectares in Burgundy, and it makes them one of the largest vineyard owners in Burgundy. This is, again, a old world wine. So with old world places like France, like Italy, like Spain, they expect that if I tell you where it comes from, you should know what the grape varietal. So you never see the grape varietal on the bottle of any what they call old world wines. So what you see here, you'll see the words Mercurey. Mercurey is the region in Côte Chalonnaise. Because it's in Burgundy, you would understand that it is going to be 100% Pinot Noir. And you'll see La Framboisiere and Monopole. So this is actual site. So Faiveley owns the entire La Framboisiere vineyard site, which is about 11 hectares, quite a large site. And the name of the wine comes from the presence of raspberry plants on the vineyard. And that's what I guess La Framboisiere in French means. Also kind of strikingly, the wine actually, when you smell and taste it, also has a lot of red fruit. So it's very aptly named. As I said, they have 11 hectares of this vineyard and they own all of it. Faiveley is one of the largest owners of lands in Cote Chalonnaise. They own about 72 hectares, which is also good. That means they have a lot of experience with the soil type and the climate in Cote Chalonnaise. About 3,800 cases of this wine is produced, which is quite a bit for a wine. And that's why the pricing is not too bad. It's $87 in the liquor stores. Just a little bit more history about this. The Faiveley family first produced this in 1933, but at that time they were actually just renting the lands, and you know, they do this with some other lands where they buy grapes. They're a négociant. But nowadays, because they've done very well, they've started to buy up lands and they're more a landowner than a négociant. Let's look at the bottle and the cork and the wine. So this is the cork, 2019 Mercurey. It is a little bit not in as great shape for 2019 that I would like. Luckily, I've opened it now, but I'm a little concerned about the cork if we were holding this for 10 or 15 years. Having said that, it's probably a mid-sized cork, so probably they don't expect you to age this for like 40 years. It is probably drinking well in the first 5 or 6 years of its life. So this is the label. You'll see it's 2019, and then it says since 1825. Domaine Faiveley. Mercurey is the region in Cote Chalonnaise. La Framboisiere is the specific vineyard, and it's a monopole, which means they own the entire vineyard. Not much information on the back. And then you'll see the color of the wine. I think it's darker than most value Burgundy wines. And doesn't it really look like the color of like raspberries and strawberries? It's kind of, again, very aptly named wine. So let's try this wine. I'll let you know that I did have it yesterday with a few friends. We opened it up and we actually taste tested it against a BC Pinot Noir. And I think both wines were really good. I think good quality wines. But I think and a lot of people did like the BC wine better, in fact, in terms of a drinking wine. But I think a lot of people actually found this a little bit more intense in terms of the kind of the aromas, the color, and also the kind of sophistication. So that was yesterday. So it's now been the next day. And generally with my tastings, I like to taste at least 2 or 3 times. That kind of gives you a thought, some time to process. I actually find it very hard to, on the spot, do a tasting, and sometimes I'll throw out words, just my first words, but you know, sometimes you need some time to process what you're actually drinking. And so I find it useful to taste at least a couple of times, if not more, for each wine. So let's take a smell of this. So on the smell, you get the red fruit, so raspberries, strawberries, red cherries, and a little bit of foresty, like underbrush in terms of the forest floor, that type of woodiness in it. But very pleasing, very aromatic. I would say it is quite appealing in terms of the smell of it. And the color, if you look at it, is quite dark. Again, sometimes people don't like Burgundies because they're so light in color and maybe it's not as attractive. This is a very attractive color. It's got a lot of intensity of color. So let's try it. So I really like the intensity of flavor here. I could call it like bursting with fruit. And it is a lot of cherry, red cherry, strawberries, and raspberries. And then on the aftertaste, there's a slight bit of foresty woodiness to it. Really nice and smooth wine, good acidity. You know how sometimes in wines, at least with Pinot Noirs from Burgundy, it's really sour, like a sour cherry, and I think that turns a lot of people off. This doesn't have, it has a little bit of red cherry, but not the sourness, which is negative, I would say. And that's what I tend to see, that even when we get up to the higher level of wines, as we approach Grand Cru, that sourness goes away. It is mostly red cherries turning to black cherries, turning to dried cherries. But this has got that nice cherry appeal to it, the taste, without that overly sour taste that a lot of people describe with entry-level Burgundies. Really smooth, beautiful Pinot. I think this is the level in terms of where you'd like to start when in your journey of Burgundy. Anywhere, I think, lower than this in terms, I don't think it would be that pleasurable an experience, and a lot of people will question, well, why am I paying this much? With this wine, I think people can see why you're paying that type of money. There is some complexity. One thing I forgot to mention is this is a village wine, so that's probably goes into the pricing. If you look at my other Burgundy videos, there's 4 levels. There's the basic Bourgogne level, then there's the village level, then there's the Premier Cru level, and there's a Grand Cru. And that's based on sites and how good they are in terms of the overall history of the site and what people think in terms of the vineyard site. So you're getting here what we would call a village level, but it's got some distinctiveness because it's got its own name, La Framboisiere, and it's a Monopole. So I would say it's kind of an elevated village wine, which is really good in a way. You're getting the pricing of a village wine, but you're getting kind of an elevated and distinct taste. I really like this. And again, the descriptors are very easy on this wine. It's basically red fruit and a woodiness, a forest woodiness. I think it's drinking wonderfully right now. It could probably go another 5-6 years easily. It's not really an investment wine, I don't think, but it's a great drinking wine, and again, a great start to your journey in Burgundy, in my opinion. I'm gonna hover between 89 and 90 points. I'm gonna give it, let's give it 90 points. It's a pretty good wine, and again, I'm really thrilled to drink it. Again, some people will disagree with me, but I think for the price, considering it is Burgundy, I think it's a good value. You have to consider that the region is expensive, and you know, I know $87 Canadian sounds like a lot for a wine, but in the context of overall Burgundy prices, I don't think it's unreasonable, and I think in fact it's a pretty decent value for this wine. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Until next time, happy drinking.